Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my low quality production of Wandering Reader, where I'm kind of just doing this off the cuff, reading some of my favorite web novels and trying to introduce web novels that I find are unique that have unfortunately haven't been picked up or translated, probably for various reasons that we're not going to get into today. Now, web novels is a very interesting field, genre, and I just kind of wanted to share my joy of reading it. And from this specific genre, I'm going to talk about why I didn't do what I didn't do and why I'm doing what I'm doing. Now, originally, I wanted to do a lot of my science fiction favorite topics, stuff like science fiction, just because I feel like that's the closest to regular fiction that most people read. Um, and regular books, regular literature. And in the web novel genre, there's a lot of different genre system. English web fiction tends to trend toward lit RPG. One of the most popular genres is fan fiction, and then some various other types like on AO3 and whatnot. But I'm probably going to be diving deep into the various subgenres and niches of web novels, right? And we're going to dive into one of those subgenres, which is urban life. I'll go into more about the various genres that we're going to go over, the various tags. But yeah, there's a lot of stories to pick from science fiction. Some of my favorite science fiction titles that I'm not going to mention now, and some of the ones that I was going to decide between. Popular ones like Full Time Artist, I Draw Comics Quietly. Even the popular, the more well, those ones are Chinese top list. These are the raws. Power and Wealth, Extraordinary Genius, Magical Industrial Empire, all great titles, a little bit long, and I can't really summarize it as quickly as I did. Plus, I wanted this to be a relatively short project anyway. So, we're going to be covering a very interesting title because I have a very interesting perspective and spin I want to put on this urban life web novel. There will be tags we're going to go over once I introduce this in a little bit, and some of my personal tags that, a little bit, not necessarily spoilers, but things you may want to watch out for when you start reading this genre. You'll kind of pick these up as you go along. But let's get into it. Let's just get straight into it. So that's the Chinese. I'll read the Chinese first. 重生之思水流年. 重生 means rebirth. 之思水. 之 is of. 思水 is like water. 水流. So 水流, water and flowing. Those two characters go together. The three dots represent a water character having to do with water. 水流 just means how it flows. You can even tell by the strokes that it looks very elongated, very much like a river. And then Nian just means years or age, right? And so roughly translates to rebirth is like those flowing years, otherwise known as those homecoming years. 重生 just means rebirth. 回到, right, is return to. So this is going to be a story within the do-over genre. If you're not familiar with it, it just means returning to the past and, redoing the past all over again. Like if you got a second chance at life, transmigration, but more specifically, the past of our main character. The author is Tang Seng Yue. This is a little bit hard to translate. Most of the time they just translate into the Chinese pinyin or romanization, as some people like to call it, Changsung Moon. So Rüya means moon. Chang, I'm not really sure how to translate it. Looking at their profile picture, it usually means a white gray, otherwise translated to ashes. Historically, though, it usually meant deep green, as in like the deep green color of grass, of mountains. Sometimes you just describe the color blue. So you can see how this white gray um, could be considered blue, a greenish blue color. If you go back to color theory, the Romans didn't really have a color for blue. They described it as green. So, back to those color palette. We're not going to go back that far, but there's a Vox video on that. So, 长生月, sorry, 长山月. So, this would be roughly described as a white gray mountain moon, right? And that's, how you would translate that, I'd say. So 长山月. It does 长usually means like long, but in this case it's just a very specific colored mountain. So it could be like a light green mountain moon. But looking at the profile picture, we're gonna go with like gray mountain moon. 长山 moon if you want an English, very simple English title. So we're gonna go over the summary, go over the chapters, and then authors custom tags. I'm not gonna go over the awards because it's a little bit much. Um, so it's serialized, which means it's currently being published, and I think it's still being trans. Oh, is it done? Oh, I think no. I think let me check. Um, oh, it's still being translated to this day. Yeah, you can check the date. I thought this was supposed to hide. Oh, my taskbar is hidden. Good, good, good. But yeah, no, that is the current date. We're going to go over the various titles. So it's translated as contract is VIP, which means after a certain amount of chapters, 84. Those are paid chapters, so VIP chapters. It's a city, so this is a realistic urban life story, as like we like to call it. It has various tropes, urban life, usually changed to harem. And let's look at the tags. Blood, so shit. Russia. So hot-blooded, very youth style web novel. Hot-blooded, it's inspirational, a little bit arrogant, that type of style web novel. I found the prose or the style of writing very unique. It's a very easy-going and easy-flowing Rebirth web novel. So that means, a lot of things are kind of not necessarily going to be handed to the protagonist, but it's going to be very logically structured to the point where it's the main character is going to have it quite easy compared to other protagonists. If you're well read into the genre, you'll kind of know what that means. Certain ones start from a more difficult standpoint. Some like to call it the Chidian orphanage because the site is called Chidian starting point, translated English translation. Literal translation is just Chidian. And then rebirth, 重生. Yeah, rebirth just means 重生 or 回到, which is return to. And those are the various types of rebirth titles that you'll come into, like 我的. So the age of 1988, that's a very famous title. 我的1988年. You say the numbers in Chinese. And we'll just go over the summary. A scarred middle-aged soul rewinds in time and embraces the molted sunshine of 1998. Suddenly, I found out that the youth was just right at that time, and the years were fragrant. It turns out that making mistakes is called youth growth, and youth can fly like this. Now let's talk about why I really enjoy this web novel. And we'll talk about the summary. So a lot of times web novels will take us to the past, especially with these rebirth web novels. You notice a lot of them go as far back as 1988 to the time period of 2002, right? Cyber's hegemony 2002. Some go as early as 2012 and 2016. Those are more written within the past 2 years. This being one of those titles written within the past 2 or 3 years. This is just the current era or trend of web novels. Just like how anime has isekai, web novels has the do-over genre. In the past, it used to be stuff like Apocalypse and Lit RPG, but let's not go too far into the history. This is one of the popular genres in urban life, and we're going to cover some of these titles. This is, I think, representative of one of the great ones. There are various types. I Really Am a Superstar goes into more entertainment aspects. Superstars of Tomorrow takes on a more futuristic aspect to it. But these types would be classified in anime as slice of life, urban history even, and then some entertainment intertwined. So we'll be going and covering over things like the rise of Apple, the rise of Microsoft, and it really tells of a different time. It calls Some people call this the golden age or the rise of Asia, right? I think this is the peak years of Japan, right? The Paris Accords and whatnot, the golden age of Japan, just past, right? The Plaza Accords of 1979. Then you have all that history. Just past 1991 is the Asian financial crises. But throughout all this, these were considered some very popular years. You have the rise of very famous Asian figures such as Superman Lee. He's a very famous figure. The rise of internet tech companies is just a little bit later, around 2001, 2002. You have the rise of Jack Ma and Tencent, Pony Ma, same as Tencent, Epic Games, right? These are various titles you'd be familiar with. 80s and 90s, rise of Microsoft and Apple. Now, in the West, most people may or may not be familiar with the rise of Silicon Valley. This is very much not necessarily the rise of Asia, but more the slice of life. There are many ways things can go. There's business workplace. There's pure business, which is just, international history of, entrepreneurship and business, selling coal to selling junk and water, sugar water, as Steve Jobs would say. Pepsi, they had their various entrepreneurial rises in Asia, across Singapore, Indonesia, China, Japan, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. And then you have various slice of life. This is going to be covering into those slice of life. Japan has their slice of life high school web novels, anime. This is those high school slice of life anime and web novel form. And you'll notice it takes a very, very different environment and tone than you will see in Japanese anime. And I'm so excited to share my excitement, my outlook, and a little bit of my thoughts on these types of web novels like this, why I read web novels like this, and I'll be able to share my excitement with you. Yeah. I may just decide to share more of my goals and manifesto or something in a different video in an introduction video. But this is me branching out to new topics, and if you can't tell from my level of excitement, it's I call this calm excitement because I'm usually calm. Sometimes I'm overly excited. I call this my calm excitement mode. And I cannot wait to introduce you to some of the beautiful drama and romances of youth, as well as some of my commentary on what I think about that from the various content that I have consumed in using the very social media content media sources that I consume. So the first 84 chapters is sail and set sail. So this, the introduction chapters. My high school is so exciting, 218 chapters. I in university is bright as the sun. So I think you can tell the character arcs from these various volumes here. Obviously the VIP starting around 83. I'm gonna try and reread this and then I'll summarize this as best I can. Oh my lord, I'm looking at these chapter titles and all of these are amazing. So we're gonna go by this one by one. But I really hope you guys enjoy this journey with me. I'm not going to cover too much of the titles and like the author accomplishments. Um, but yeah, this is very enjoyable. As I said, I never cover the badges. There's a lot of things to cover, like the works they've written. This author is very well known for these titles too in the Song Dynasty. So he's a very history-based web novel, but this is the first time he set his time period so early, right? Song Dynasty is like 2,000, 3,000 years ago. Tang Dynasty even further back, almost 3,000 years. And so his word count of 8 million. He's been writing for about, according to this, about 6 years? No, 4 years. Yeah, four times 300. About that. Three and a half, 4 years about, and maybe even longer because I don't know how Cheatian calculates creative days. But a very experienced author, you can tell, level 5. I think this is more recent work, so, always read the best. This is 10,000, so I think it's like 3.82 million, and these like maybe 960,000 people recommended, and then that's how many people. Just because the Chinese counting system uses 4 decimal points, 4 zeros, but semantics there, and we're not going to go too much into that. What? I did not know that existed. Worldview? What the frick? I need to read this in Chinese. Wow, it is. Should I? Yeah. Okay. So I didn't even know these things existed. What the frick? I've never seen this tag before. What? What? Oh, I think these are the characters. Why have I never seen this before? This is like this is like a glossary. What the frick? What the frick? Oh my lord. You guys, I don't okay. Okay. I see. Wow. I've never used this tab before, so I am amazed. Oh, this is a great summary. This is basically what I'm gonna do. Why do I not know about this? By the way, they added a very interesting search function at the bottom. Monsanto. Oh, I think Oh, he's gonna introduce these. So yeah, this is basically just a glossary of things you're gonna see. Um, Man, I gotta pull up director of the music department and see if these exist. They even talk about the different types of cars. Cars are a big deal. Economic system. Uh, wow. So these are his notes. These are actually his notes. Pilot programs, sure. Kosovo War. Oh, this is a very famous event. Dutch tulip event, sure, sure, sure. Oh. Yeah, yeah, of course. See, this is the Asian financial crisis. I don't think that actually happened. Maybe it's a mention because this is past 1998. Okay, maybe I was wrong. I was thinking of 1992. Oh yeah, the Great Flood. There's a lot of other ones like the giant earthquake in two places actually. In the northeast, Changchun, and then I think there was another one in Sichuan, but that was like 2008 or something. And oh, these must be the various landmarks. Harbin. Oh yeah, this is northeast. Shanghai. Oh my lord. Heilongjiang. Okay, okay. Got it. Unique. Okay, I'm so excited. Translation's not always perfect, but this is gonna be great.